thought it was time for something a little bit more challenging. Last few I've done have been quite easy. A lot of them have been ones where I haven't even taken it apart, haven't even painted it, just added details and done that little trick with the wheels that I like doing. And then the MG1100, that just did not present any problems whatsoever. It was just a dream from start to finish. So I thought I'd just counter that with one that's a bit of a nightmare, because this Mercury Cougar Dragster, frankly, is. I mean nightmare in a good way, because it just means there's a lot to get my teeth into, and I'm going to be bringing this one along for the ride, this slightly less nightmarish version. It's almost like the other one, but just before it got stood on. Notice, though, the remains of a tow hitch on it, and if you think about the rest of the Mercury range that Matchbox did, the Park Lane, the Commuter, Station Wagon, oh no, those don't need tow hitches apparently, but the Cougar Dragster does. So these are the quarry. This is what we'll be restoring side by side. I'll probably give the worst one a bit of a head start because it has got more wrong with it than the other one. No pillars, it's been crushed, no glass, and the engine thing's missing as well. Both of these are ones that you can take apart without a drill. Just squeeze the head of the rivet, the part of the rivet that's exposed, the sort of mushroom cap of the rivet, if you like, between the cold, merciless jaws of the long-nosed pliers. If you do that enough, it should bring off the head of the rivet, and that will only leave... That doesn't really leave anything for the base plate to stay in with, in theory. You often have to do a little bit more than that, though, like I'm doing here, just with the precision screwdriver, just to get rid of... Always do this pointing away from your fingers. Otherwise, you will pierce your fingers with the precision screwdriver, and that's not a good way to kick off a restoration that's supposed to be fun. But if you use it just to take that little bit of extra, whatever remnants of the mushroom head are still on there, you should then find that you can just, there you go, just nicely work it open. So another one for the no drilling required file. It's only one rivet on these anyway. I opened the other one up and it went exactly the same. It was just identical. It would have almost looked like identical footage. Nice surprise when I got this one open. The suspension, it's almost like the little car's giving me something back for giving it a chance, because the axles are perfectly straight. The wheels are in pretty good nick. I'm just giving the axles a quick polish there with some wire wool. Not any particular reason, it rolled quite fast anyway, but it just might as well once you've got it open. And the plastic suspension unit, that's in really good order as well. There's no problems with it, so it makes me feel a lot better about giving this one its turn. It's almost like it's trying to not give me any more problems than it already has done by having like 2 missing pillars and a missing engine and a crushed roof and no windows. But yeah, at least the bit. Well, I was going to say at least the base plate's in good order. Well, in terms of the wheels and the suspension, it was, but the base plate itself is one of the most heavily oxidised base plates I've come across, and it's a real marathon to get this to actually polish up. As you'll see, it's quite a grind. Now, anybody who's thinking, well, why don't you just get a Dremel, do it with a Dremel? No, that's like telling a keen cyclist to catch a bus. The whole point is, this is what I like doing, so I like doing it this way. So when I say things like grind, it's not really a grind. I'm not like not enjoying it. Anyway, all this really that you can see going on here, swapping between the metal brush and the wire wool, this is all really just dancing around the edges and sort of, well, it's almost like limbering up really for the main event, because this really, doing it this way, I mean, like I say, obviously you get it done a lot quicker with a Dremel or something like that, but doing it this way, this one is quite a marathon, and I do end up putting a fair old bit of blood and muscle into this. Actually, it's quite the workout, because when it comes down to it, you can do little 3 or 4 second bursts and then change to something else and then change it around and do another bit. You can do all that. Like I said, that's all just limbering up. That's just getting yourself ready. What you really need to do is this. Putting plenty of pressure on, a good 20-30 second blast with one thing in one place. So this is kind of real time. You've got to do a lot of these. So this, what you're seeing here, is probably an uninterrupted 30 second, and like I say, I really am putting some pressure on and not stopping until now. And you can see when you do it like that, you can see you've actually made some progress there. You've actually got that bit a little bit shiny. So you've got to do that for every section of the base plate, and that's the only way you're going to get this looking like this. And then in the end, I caved in. I was trying to do the front and back ends with it just holding it in my hand, but in the end I caved in and put it into the vise. It just made it a lot easier. The other good thing about the vise is you can get like the edges of the bumpers where the bumpers wrap around. You can just get those nice and exposed and ready for you. You can get them with sandpaper and sanding pads and all sorts of things just to shine them up a little bit and make them look little bit more like chrome. I mean, I'm trying to get this to look more like the factory thing, but if they end up looking really smooth and chrome like in the process, then I'm not going to stop that. And then at the end, I think I just gave it another. I actually managed to get some of the wire wool caught into the bristles of the metal brush, and it is actually like using both things at once. So I just give it a final blast with that, and then onto the 600 grit sanding cloth. Mainly that was for the benefit of the bumpers and the parts that you can see once the casting's back together again. Obviously that sort of checker plate bit in the middle where all the writing is and things, you're not going to do that with a 600 grit. There's not a lot of point really. But the smoother bits that are to the outer extremities of the base plate, I did go down through the grits to 3000 with that, because why not? Why not just get as much of it looking shiny as you possibly can? And then there was one final blast. So this is another demonstration, another real-time demonstration of what a blast, so to speak, looks like on this. And I would say overall you probably have to have about 40 blasts on a base plate that's like this, because don't forget that base plate was bad. This is meant to be a bit of a nightmare car. I know it gave me a bonus with the wheels and the axles being in such good condition and the suspension being really nice, but it is meant to be a nightmare car, and the base plate was part of it. So yeah, that probably took about 20 minutes at least to get that looking like that, possibly even slightly longer. It doesn't usually take as long as that on old Lesney Matchbox cars. It's usually half that time. Sometimes it's only 5 minutes. I think the MG probably only needed less than 5 minutes of this like constant sort of brushing and what have you. Anyway, we've got a similar thing to do with the body, but that's not really the main problem with the body, because the metal itself is all right and free of defects and things like that. It's the fact that the roof's all crushed in, so it's quite handy having that other one to use as a comparison. I mean, if you haven't, I could have got by without it, so you don't need another one sort of in the background. And really, straightening that roof doesn't need to be any more dramatic than this. Some people really do go overboard with this, and I've seen people snap roofs off and things as a result of it. You don't really want to be using any tools if you possibly can. Zamac is very soft metal. It's not like trying to straighten out cast iron, so you shouldn't really need anything much more than your fingers and your thumbs, and maybe a soft kind of mallet or something if it's really bad, like a very small mallet. And when I say a small mallet, I don't really mean a mallet. I mean like probably the end of a plastic toothbrush or something like that. It's usually enough to sort of hammer it out. I noticed that whoever had it before, or whoever had it in the past, had carved a sort of giant asterisk into the roof of it, and I'm sure they got a lot of extended value out of that, but it's gone now. So we're on to just sanding the body. The roof still isn't quite straight by this point. I just wanted a little bit of a break from that before I did something stupid and ended up snapping one of the pillars that is actually intact, one of the B pillars. So just concentrating on getting the engine bay cleaned out for now, because I will be filling that. I'm going to make this car look like it's got like a normal front end rather than having the protruding engine. I've noticed with the sort of scrap, stray bits of metal from the wire wool, you can kind of pick those up with the metal brush, and it's almost like an equivalent of using water with sandpaper. It does make the metal brush work a lot better when it's got it kind of lubricates it a little bit, if that makes any sense, but also gives it more teeth at the same time. It's like putting extra grit onto sandpaper or something. It's just like picking up some stray bits of wire wool into the bristles of the brush. And then after cleaning the engine bay out, we've got to file down the edges of the engine bay as well, because if this is going to look like it's got a normal front end, then it doesn't. a normal Mercury Cougar would not have this strange sort of raised silhouette of where an engine used to be going around it. So we've just got to get rid of that, and also make sure all the kind of scuttle and where the remains of the sort of stumps of the broken pillars are, that all needs to be tidied up as much as possible, ready for the repair. And then when this engine bay silhouette is all filed down and got rid of, I then need to turn my attention back to the roof again, because that still isn't completely straight. So the problem with it is it's collapsed slightly diagonally. Where it's been stood on, it's not just crushed in a straight line, it's gone slightly diagonal. So what I'm doing now, I know I said try and use tools as little as possible, but I am putting pressure down on the roof with my fingers to keep that file from being too good at its job and straightening it out too much and lifting it up and ripping it off the pillars, because it's very easy to do, because this is only very soft metal, and this type of metal snaps rather than bends, so it's very easy to accidentally rip the roof off. So I've been putting pressure on the roof itself over where the B pillars are to keep it from ripping it off them, and then just using the file to just lever that one corner upwards, because one side came up perfectly when I pulled the roof straight. One side became perfectly straight while the other one was still slightly down. So I'm just levering it up, just that corner on its own, while putting pressure down on the on the rear of the roof. You've got to be very, very careful and take your time. Just keep doing a little bit of levering with the file, and then just check. And then just repeat the process over and over again until eventually you'll find it is completely straight. You see, it's looking like it's pretty much there now. It might still be just a slight little bit over, but if we put it next to the other one, now it looks, I would say no, just a little bit up. But the key thing that you can't really see here is the amount of pressure I'm putting down on the back of the casting. So I am working against myself, but that's how it's got to be. Because, like I say, if you don't do it like that, if you just try and lever it up, lever a roof straight or whatever, without any kind of corresponding force, you will just end up taking the roof off. Whereas instead of taking the roof off, we ended up with this. So it's completely straight, ready for its new pillars, and the base plate's nice and shiny. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you for the next instalment.